The weather's getting colder. Winter is upon us. And if you are looking to keep running throughout the colder months, then this is the episode for you. Welcome to episode 201 on the Healthy Runner podcast, where we help you get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. I have Coach Whitney LaCombe from our Healthy Runner coaching team with me here today to share how you can dress for success while running throughout the winter. Welcome back on the show, Coach Whitney.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am all about running gear, so this is right up my alley.
Yeah, I know. You're like our gear expert or gear head, as we call it. And this is such a common topic. Questions that we get asked by lots of runners is, how do you actually run outside in the cold? And a lot of people have the misconception maybe that they can't run outside because it's too cold to run, and think that they need to run on a treadmill. And there's nothing wrong with treadmill running, but if you do want to get outside, enjoy nature while the weather is cold, there's a way to do it. And you just need to be able to dress for success, as we like to call it. Before we get started with today's topic, Coach Whitney, if you don't mind just giving a little introduction of who you are and why you love doing what you do as one of the coaches on our Healthy Runner coaching team.
So like Dwayne said, my name is Coach Whitney. I live in Southern Arizona, so not quite as cold as where a lot of you guys are, but I'm a big baby, so cold is, depends on the person, right? I am a mom of three. I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old, all Spitfires. I got into running to lose weight after my son was born, did a 5K, which actually was a 7K. That's a story for a different day. But got bit by that running bug and I haven't stopped since. So I love talking about running. I love talking about gear to anybody that will listen. So becoming a running coach was perfect because I could help people achieve their running goals while still being able to talk about running and be in that atmosphere. So that's how I got started.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, like so many, right? You get into it usually for the physical benefits, and then you start to realize that there's a whole lot more to running than just the physical benefit side, and you get those mental benefits, and it just helps keep us kind of energized and kind of doing what we love to do. And yeah, we're like now fully approaching winter, and I really wanted to tackle this topic before it's too late, essentially, right? So we've now turned the calendar to November, and colder weather is upon us. For me, on the East Coast of the US in Connecticut, it's coming a lot quicker than you out in Arizona. But like you said, it is all about perception, right? So for you, you call yourself like a baby, right? Because you're not used to the cold, right? So those in the southern part of the US, if you do get some temperatures that dip down into the 30s, you're probably like, this is way too cold. Meanwhile, those in the northern part of the US, you're like, that's nothing. Like, that's not even cold for me, right? Because it's all like perception and what we're used to. And even me here in Connecticut, it does take a little while, a couple of weeks to like get used to those colder temperatures. But in general, what would you say, what are the considerations that runners need to really take into account for cold weather running?
I would say the biggest thing is making sure that your hands, your fingers, and your ears are warm because that's really what's going to make you the most miserable or not, depending on how well prepared you are. So, throwing on a pair of gloves, even those cheap ones you can buy at Walmart, the knit ones, something like that, even like a head warmer, a hat, something you can stick them in your pocket, something like that. But your fingers and your ears are going to be what gets cold the fastest, unless you're like my husband who has no hair. Then you might want to consider a hat earlier than, the rest of us with hair. But you really want to consider keeping your extremities warm.
Yeah, I know for me, it's definitely the hands. And as I'm getting older, just had a birthday last month. So, another year, turn around the sun is that like how the phrase goes,
Trip
or
around the sun.
trip around the sun, turn, trip, whatever. Right. It is Yeah, I find that my hands are like, like you said, babyish, right? Like those get cold like a lot sooner than they did like 5 or 10 years ago. I was like, I was never wearing gloves on a run like this, and now I'm wearing gloves. So for me, it is definitely the hands. And yes, absolutely. If you don't have any hair in your head, you're going to lose a lot of your core body temperature is going to be like released, and you're going to get a lot colder. Just like almost in the hot weather running, right? We need to like protect our head and kind of be able to help cool it. And so it's not getting too hot from the sun in the winter. It's all about like, keeping that temperature in and not letting everything be exposed to the cold, frigid winter elements. So when we're kind of preparing, or how best can we like prepare for whatever weather that we have in our area?
So what I like to do is, I don't know, Sunday afternoon, I check the weather for the week, kind of see what type of weather we're going to be having, daytime weather highs, but also the overnight lows. Because once those lows get low enough, those morning runs, if you're a morning runner, are going to be even colder. But then each morning I get up and I also check the weather to see, okay, is it actually 50 degrees like they said it was going to be? Is it warmer? Is it colder? What do I need to do? I always lay my clothes out the night before. It's just easier, less decisions in the morning, because I like to coordinate. So less things to think about. But I'll look even after I get up in the morning, put my contacts in, and I look and say, okay, I've got my long sleeves, I got my pants. Do I need gloves today? Do I need an ear warmer? Is it raining? We don't get snow very often here, but we do get freezing rain. 35 degrees in rain is just as cold as, you know, 25 degrees, in my opinion, without rain. So you have to kind of look at your weather app. That is going to be key. Now, I have an iPhone, so I use the Apple weather app, whatever that is. But last winter, maybe, or last spring, I downloaded WeatherBug because that I found was a little more accurate in terms of temperature for me personally where we live. So use whatever weather app you like, but look at it. But you also need to consider if your weather app says right now it is 68 degrees, going outside and running in 68 degrees is really going to feel like it's about 85 to 88 degrees. You need to add about 15 to 20 degrees to the current temperature when you go outside as a runner because your body warms up. So you need to dress for about 15 to 20 degrees warmer than it actually is. I hope that makes sense. But think about that when you are preparing your outfit for running.
Yeah, I know that's such a great point because a lot of times we'll just like step outside, or if you go out to your mailbox or go out to walk the dog and you're like, it is cold out there. Um, yeah, your body's going to get a lot warmer running. And it often, if you go cold, we'll share some strategies on how to really prevent that, where you're not stepping out the door cold. But if you do go out cold, let's say, and you're not warmed up at all, then you almost should feel chilly or cold for the first mile. Because, yeah, if you don't, then you're going to feel like you've overdressed at mile 2, 3, 4, 5, or if it's a long run, mile 10, right? So that's a great point that you are not dressing as you would dress if you were just going for a walk outside, or you are getting ready for the day, because you do have to consider that we are using our cardiovascular system. Our core body temperature is going to increase as we run, especially after the first 10 minutes of running. So
Yeah.
excellent point to check the weather app
I
when in doubt.
I want to add, no matter what piece of clothing you are choosing to wear in the winter, if you can find something with pockets, whether it's a top with pockets, pants with pockets, shorts, a running vest, something, that is going to make it so much easier for you to plan because you can take things off and put them in the pockets. You don't have to then carry all of the things because it's nobody wants to be running carrying gloves and a head warmer and all these other things that you've taken off. So find pockets. Pockets are going to be your best friend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Stash those things. And as you guys are probably pretty familiar, that we're big fans of like frameworks and steps, blueprints, things like that. And in our kind of Spark, healthy runner, 6 steps to growing as a runner. this is really relating to that running bucket, right? Like, how are we going to be able to get in our runs during cold weather? And it is to kind of follow these tips that Coach Whitney is going to share with you on how to dress properly. And because we're a big fan of frameworks, we've also come up with like Spark Healthy Runners 3 cold weather clothing categories. So we have 3 different categories. The first category is like cold weather. You consider it cold. And we're going to give some generalizations here in terms of temperature. But as Coach Whitney already alluded to, it is very personal, right? Some of you are going to be like hot hot weather runners or hot sweaty runners, and you're going to heat up a lot when you run. Others are going to be, you're going to be like babies of the cold, right? You're always going to be freezing. Um, and those of you also who have like poor circulation, or if you have Raynaud's syndrome or disease, right? Like your hands, your extremities are going to not warm up, and they're going to get very cold. So you really need to take particular attention to your feet and your hands. So there is a range here. And then, not even to mention hormonal changes that occur in midlife, especially if you female runners. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And, that's going to fluctuate. So keep in mind, this is like generalizations that will probably pertain and be helpful for the majority of people in these categories. But like, obviously, use your individual circumstances and use this as a guide to really help you in how to layer for the different levels that we're going to talk about. And level one's like the first sense of cold. So we'll call this cold. And this is going to really be from like 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or like 4 to 10 degrees Celsius for our Canadian running friends and our international running friends. Level two is kind of colder, we'll call it, is going to be, below freezing. So it's like 20 or just slightly above 20 to 40 degree range, let's say, or -6 degrees to 4 degrees Celsius. And then the coldest is, we consider kind of sub 20 degree Fahrenheit, or anything that is colder than like -6 degrees Celsius. That's in our like coldest category. All right. So like 3 different levels. And as we go through today's gear guide, that Coach Winnie is going to really take you through kind of from like head to toe, like, how do we dress for cold weather running, and how do we, be able to get out there for these mental clearing miles during the winter months. um, we'll kind of talk, okay, here's an option for, level one, or like the cold. Here's the next level where it's colder, then you could do this. And the coldest scenario, here's where, you want to think about, or what you want to think about using in terms of gear for that area of the body. And then at the end, we're going to share our kind of put it all together for you, and kind of go kind of layer by layer, if you will, based upon those different clothing categories. So, yeah, Coach Whitney, let's start. Let's go head to toe here. So let's start with the head. What are
All right.
the gear that we need to consider in order to get some cold weather running?
So, my favorite is an ear band. Goes over your head, around your ears. Actually, this one I think Dwayne gave me for Christmas one year. It is my absolute favorite, and it's a super cute color. For those of you on the podcast, it's a really pretty pink color, and pink is my favorite. So, this is a winner. The nice thing is it's got like this fleecy inside, which is really nice, but the outside is like that traditional running spandexy material. So it's kind of wind resistant on the outside, which keeps my ears like perfectly warm for my winters. Now, that would probably be your warmest cold weather category, would be just an ear band. Then I would say if you don't have hair, which I have no problem with, my husband is bald, I would suggest a beanie. It's going to keep you from radiating all that heat out of the top of your head. It's going to keep your ears warm. It kind of is going to do all the things. Then, our coldest people do both. Put on your earband first, then put your beanie over, because that's going to allow you, when you start to get warm, to take your beanie off, and it's going to allow some of that heat to come out of your head when you get really warm, but your ears are going to stay nice and warm. So you've got a couple of options for ears, head, keeping all of that warm.
Yeah, and I've never actually done the ears to tell you the truth, and I don't know, for me, and it totally might be because I feel like a lot of female runners, are big fans of, like, the headband, and I don't know if it's because like, helps your hair as well, I have no clue.
It does, because the hat, like, when you have a ponytail or a braid or whatever, it pushes down and it, like, almost hurts your head because it puts the pressure wherever your ponytail is. So, unless you have one of those hats that has, like, the hole in the back, but then you have to get your ponytail in the right spot, it's hard. So, I'm a big fan of the ear warmer.
Yeah, so for me, it is, I basically have like 3 different levels of hats, if you will. And actually kinda level 1 cold category, I'll go with like a thinner hat like this. It's kinda thin. Um, so, it's breathable, right? And it's like made for running and, sweat's gonna be able to escape. And then kind of the next level for me is actually like a tighter beanie. Like this one is like a fitted cap. It's almost like a swim cap. And it does cover the ears. So it kind of comes down and covers the ears. My other one, honestly, when I feel like it's cold enough to actually put a hat on, then I usually like don't even cover my ears because for some reason I feel like they get hot. Um, so that's kind of my personal thing. And then if it's like super cold, then I might go to like the hat that's kind of behind me. So for those listening to the audio version, you might want to see the video version, more of like a knitted hat or got like double up. Like if it's really extremely cold, and for me, that is literally single digits, Fahrenheit, kind of around the zero ish, 0 to 10 degrees. Then I might double up on a hat or do a hat with a hood over that, with like my outer shell that we will eventually get to. So yeah, I have doubled up on the hat, and actually, you know what? I No, I'm gonna save it for the next category. I don't want to like do spoiler alert on you and everything. So I'm just gonna stop talking right now. I think we've covered the head. So now, what's the next body region that we need to take into account for winter running?
Your neck, because just like your neck gets hot and sweaty and you can help cool off in the summer, your neck needs to stay warm while you're running. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing a vest, but I have my base layer underneath. This is actually one of my running base layers. It just has a normal collar. So if I get hot, I can unzip my vest and it kind of cools me down. It's great. You can get a quarter zip, you can get all sorts of things with zippers and like neck gaiters, I guess. But you can also use a handy dandy, those buffs that are left over from COVID that nobody really knows what to do with anymore. You can wear a buff around your neck, and that's going to super keep your neck nice and warm. You can actually wear this over your ears too, or you can do it double. I'm not going to do it now because it'll look ridiculous, but you can put it around your neck and pull it up over the back of your head like a hood. And it will help to keep your head warm as well. If you get into one of those situations where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing. I didn't bring a hat, like whatever, a buff is going to be your best friend. And if you get too warm, you can take it off and wrap it around your wrist. You don't even have to carry it. So, buff is going to be your best friend in the winter.
Yeah, and I find that the neck area needs a little more versatility, like you mentioned, right? Where you might start out cold, but then you might start getting hot, and it's like really helpful to have that quarter zip where you can unzip. And I have a bunch of running tops like that and then I'll have to like tuck in the collar because to me it's like
Because then it
annoying if you
flaps.
like, yes, it's like
Yes,
so
I
annoying,
totally
right?
do. Yeah. I'm totally like, tuck it
Yes.
in under my bra straps, which you don't have, but makes it easier.
Yeah, and especially if you're doing like speed work, I feel like if you're doing any type of like tempo run, right, in the winter months, base building time period, I do feel like that's the gear I tend to pull out is that quarter zip, and then I knowing that if I get a little too warm, I can kind of like tuck in the collar, unzip, where it comes down to like chest level.
Yeah.
But I would say the neck is probably the area that most people forget to protect when we get
Yep.
to our coldest categories, right? And now we're talking about, you got a long run and we need to protect your skin from you actually getting like frostbite,
Yep.
right? So that's an area that you can forget. And if your collar on your jacket doesn't go high enough, um, you know, that's going to be exposed as well as your face is going to be exposed. So that's when I pull out the big guns here, and I have this like, what do they call these? Like the bacala baklava, I want to say, which is totally not what
That's
it's
a
called.
dessert.
But
I feel like those are for, like, for skiing. You wear them because they come up, right? We have
yes.
those for skiing.
So
All my
this is
kids have
like a
those.
hat, right? It goes over the head. Literally, the only thing that's shown is like my eyes. Um, and then, so this is like your robber mask, basically, right? You're gonna like hold a convenience store up. I'm not really going to do that, guys. But the key to these, because I did have one initially in my early days of running that was not breathable. And I was literally suffocating under it because I couldn't breathe. This one that I have here that I'm showing has like these neat holes around the mouth and the nose area. So you can actually breathe through it. And then, you might get some icicles that form. And then you take like your cool selfies and be like, oh, look at this. I got some icicles around my mouth. But this will really protect your skin because you really, when you get down to those coldest levels, it's all about like the time that you're out there in this cold temperature, and you have to prevent like frostbite. So the face is, usually the area that people either forget about. This is a nice easy way to cover the face, and if you get one that is breathable, it's very helpful. As opposed to, wrapping a scarf, let's say, that might move around a whole lot or might not stay snug. This is like form fitting to your neck, to your face, kind of protects the whole neck. And then, the only thing that's kind of showing is your eyes. And if it is cold enough and where we're in single digits and or below, and my hardy like Minnesota runners, all of you guys like run all year round, you guys are like amazing. This best, but you also have to protect your eyes. So whether it is glasses, goggles, make sure that you're not forgetting about that those are protected as well, if we are getting like super duper cold. All right.
Yes.
But most of you like probably tuning into this aren't getting that in depth. But if you are in those areas and regions where it is getting really, really cold and you're not exactly sure, it's your first winter running, what I highly recommend you also do is go to your local running store and talk to the folks in there. And, because they're going to, most of them probably run themselves in your temperature and your climate, but, see what they utilize, get some tips from them as well. Anything to add to that, Coach?
I would say, covering your mouth, especially in our Minnesota super cold, almost negative degree all the time, winter runners, it's going to help your lungs too, because breathing cold air is not bad for you. But breathing like freezing cold air for like hours on end, long runs, it's not going to be the greatest. So it is going to kind of help warm that air as it goes down, which is going to be beneficial. And I will say I've never had to deal with icicles, but I've always wanted to be one of those people who gets icicles on their eyelashes. I've never had that happen. So, like, life goal, maybe next time I'm in Connecticut over the winter, I'll get icicles. But yeah,
Yes, I know. It's been a couple of seasons for me because we've had some mild winters here, and you do need to sweat a lot almost to get the icicles, right? Because you're almost sweating. So I think I actually layer a little better where I don't sweat as much underneath. So then you don't get like that melting that is occurring on your eyes. But I'm sure it probably relates to like, if there's some moisture in the air as well as, or if it's like dry, the air during those colder colder runs. Um, all right, so now shifting gears to kind of our third region of the body, the top. Like, what do we wear up top in the winter, and how do we kind of layer for kind of shirts or jackets?
layers, lots and lots and lots of layers. So you need to find a base layer, which is going to be obviously your base, what's going to be right against your skin. Now, I right now am wearing one of my base layer shirts. It is fantastic. It is thin. It is breathable. I will actually wear this when it's about 50-ish, maybe right below that, because it's not super thick, but it's just thick enough that I'm not freezing. It is fantastic. It's got, you want to find something that has the thumb hole, because when you go to put gloves on or your jacket or whatever, you have your thumb hooked into the end of your sleeve. It also doubles as gloves if you forget them and you need to like curl your fingers into your palms and cover everything to keep it from the wind. This base layer is from Athleta. We are not sponsored by Athleta. I'm just sharing what I personally like. It has these little, they're almost like hot glue droplets on the bottom around my waist. So my shirt doesn't ride up ever. Now, I wear this shirt, tank top, t shirt, long sleeve because it has those little grippies and I'm not constantly adjusting. So it is by far my favorite, especially in the long sleeve base layer. But there are plenty of other places you can get a base layer. Tracksmith has a really great wool long sleeve. You can actually get them from Costco. I bought last year from Costco. I want to say it's Heat 365, or it has some number after the word heat. And it's designed to be a base layer, long underwear for skiing or cold weather. And I actually wore those a lot last winter. I would double them up because they were thin enough that I could do that, or a single was enough. But you need to find something that's going to work for you, that's tight enough that you can put another layer over it so you're not all bunched up underneath, because there's nothing worse than putting on that second long sleeve and having like all the wrinkles and you're trying to adjust. Find something that is maybe a size down from what you normally would wear, just so that it is snug enough. Then you can add a second shirt, you can add a vest, you can add a jacket, you can add like a windbreaker if it's not super hot, but it's cool enough that you want to kind of have that layer between you and the elements. I'm a big fan of vests because, as you can see, I'm wearing one now. You have the mobility in your arms to do whatever you need to do. It keeps you cool, your armpits get a little aired out, but it also has pockets. This vest is fantastic. Oh, you're not gonna be able to see it, but it has regular pockets, but on the side, it has a giant pocket on both sides that I can put water, I can put gels, I can put whatever I want. It is amazing. For me, living in Arizona, I don't, maybe there's been like 2 instances where I've actually worn a full jacket running. It just doesn't get that cold when I run. I run after the kids go to school about 8 o'clock. So it's not super, super cold for me. But a running jacket is a great option because it's going to keep your arms warm. You can probably get away with wearing maybe one base layer under it. It's going to be a good option. You can do something thick like a vest with the down, with the feathers, with whatever you need, the fluff. Or you can do something like a windbreaker. That's going to be thinner, less bulky, but it's going to protect you from the wind. Now, I would say that's probably for those warmer, cold weather days, but you have to find what works for you in terms of jacket versus vest.
Yeah, all great. And what do you say to, like, the old school Rocky gear, like wearing a cotton sweatshirt that I'm wearing right now? If I were to go like run out, throw my hood on, throw on my Rocky anthem and go for a run, what would you say to that?
Oh, I say I'm sweating already. Like just thinking about it, like I can't. It's hurting me. No, don't do that because it doesn't breathe and it's going to, you might feel warm, but then you're going to sweat and that sweat's not going to go anywhere. Then the sweatshirt's going to be wet and sweaty. You're going to be wet and sweaty, but then you're going to be cold. It's not a good combination. If you want to go for a run, maybe you park your car somewhere, go for a run, and then you drive home or you drive to work or whatever. Throw a sweatshirt on, take your layers off, throw a sweatshirt on after your run. Don't run in a sweatshirt. It's not going to breathe. You are not Rocky. Don't do it.
I'm not Rocky. What? Coach Cat is going to be so upset. You just knocked Rocky. No, I'm just kidding. um, yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that we see with novice runners, and I definitely am all about runners getting out there and starting to run. So I really could care less what you wear as long as you're out there starting to run. Like, kudos for you. But once you're doing it for a little bit, you're doing it for a while, and you're looking to kind of improve, right, and do things in a better way, maybe a more efficient way, or more of a way that's going to keep you staying cool without overheating, and then not getting super cold because now you've sweated through that sweatshirt, and now wind kicks in, or you stop running and now you're freezing because you have a soaking wet shirt. Avoiding cotton is key. And yeah, like Coach Whitney said, that base layer, thinking about something that's breathable. For me, as it gets to, the first level of cold, we'll call it, that I will go from tank top to long sleeves, is I like to do a little baggier, like long sleeve shirt that moves, breathes, isn't super tight to my skin, because then I'll like overheat if it's super tight. But then as it gets colder and we're talking about layering and there's going to be something over it, then I have shirts that are super tight. So they stay close to my skin, right? Because I'm looking to actually retain heat, and they don't need to be like the super thick, like compressive, like Under Armour, cold weather gear. I used to wear that in the beginning of my running journey, and honestly, I find that it's too much for running, um, and you really really sweat in that. So I found more success like with something like Coach Whitney's wearing now, is something that's thinner, really breathable, and just tight to the skin. And then we layer on top of that more of not a super thick fleece, but the next level of keeping you warm, whether it's like usually most of the things I have now are like thinner fleece like material that is still breathable. And then if we're getting to the coldest, then that's when I pull out the outer shell, and I only use a windbreaker, honestly. And this really keeps me warm for all of my runs, really, unless it's minus degrees. So single digits in the teens. It's no more than those three really in the trunk area. So up top, it's like that thinner base level layer, a fleece layer, but it doesn't have to be like a super thick fleece either, guys. It's more like a thinner fleece. And then it's just the outer shell that's really a windbreaker. It's not a winter coat. Like I would never do that because you're just gonna like overheat big time. Um, it's a windbreaker essentially, and it's just to block, because if there's any wind at all, and when the temperatures are below freezing, that feels very cold. So it is really just to protect the wind, so it's not actually going through your fleece level and or that thinner level. So it could be super helpful, and it's super thin, so you don't think it's going to do anything, but it really does, because you have those layers that Coach Whitney mentioned. And yeah, I know a lot of people love the vest. I love vests just for like everyday usage. But I must admit, I've never run with a vest yet. And
Oh,
I don't
you're
know
missing
why.
out. You got to do it.
I know. It is. I know. I do. You know what? I'm gonna have to try that this winter. I really am, because I haven't tried it for running for some reason. I've just done like the two levels, the layers, and then I go third layer, and yeah, I might need to give the old vest a try this winter.
Yeah, it's a nice in between. Like, I guess for you guys where you need to wear multiple, lots and lots of layers, if there might be that day where it's not quite cold enough for that jacket, or the fleece, but you still need a little something more. You can put on two layers and a vest, and I just like the mobility aspect. That's what really makes a difference for me.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense. That really does. And especially again, if you are running faster, I can see that being extremely helpful, right?
well, you
And
know me,
you
I'm super fast all the time. Just kidding.
but I could see that being helpful for those that need to get in some speed work during the winter months, those that are training for Boston,
Whew,
in a cold
yep.
weather city, for April marathon or early spring marathon, and you are doing a lot of your training in the cold weather months. I could see that being extremely helpful. Um, yeah, let's go on to, have we? Okay, yeah, let's go to the. We talked vest. Yeah, let's. What comes next in our, um, I guess, other considerations that you need to think about in kind of the trunk area, if you will, the core.
So I want to talk about two different, I'm going to use quotes, vests. So a hydration vest and a light vest. Now, a hydration vest is just that, it's a hydration vest, but it gives you the layer as though you're wearing a vest. So it will keep the wind off of your trunk. It will kind of insulate your trunk area while you're running. So maybe you don't need to wear the vest. Maybe you can get away with one or two long sleeve base layers and wear a hydration vest, which is going to allow you to carry hydration, your phone, your gels, all of the things, but it gives you pockets. You can put your gloves in, you can, whatever you need to carry, you would then have with you. The other one is a light vest, which a lot of you guys are morning runners or after work runners. And in the winter, that means it is dark, like dark, dark, dark. So you need to, one, be visible so that cars and other pedestrians can see you, but you also need to be able to see where you're going. So I personally am obsessed with my Noxgear tracer light vest and the lamp that attaches in the buckle, because my hands are free. As you guys can tell, I don't like carrying things in my hands when I run. I'm all about wearing the things. So the light vest is like a disco party that you wear. Super fun. Colors bright. People can see you. It can flash, but it also you can get the buckle lamp, which is a headlamp essentially that goes on your chest. So you don't have anything bouncing on your head. You're not wearing anything on your head. You're not carrying like knuckle lamps that kind of move all over and make you dizzy. It's perfect. So those are my other vests that I'm going to add to our trunk apparel list, trunk gear, that I think are very important in the winter.
Yeah, and it is like a little, BOGO action, right? Who doesn't like a nice BOGO sale, right? Like buy one, get one. You use your hydration vest. Not only are you using it to actually maintain hydration during your run, but it's going to keep you warm too, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the opposite of in the summertime, you need that hydration. Like you cannot do your run without it, but you like hate it because it's like, wow, this actually makes me even hotter because it's something on me. In the winter, it's great because it's like, hey, it's like free layer. There you go. Boom. You got your free layer. You don't even need your vest, Maybe that's why I don't wear for I just thought about that. For my faster runs, I do take my vest with me. So
Oh,
I get some
maybe.
hydration. And I know most of you are probably thinking that Coach Whitney and I are crazy right now. And you're like, what are you talking about in the winter? I'm never thirsty during my run. Like, who needs water? Like, what are you guys, wimps? Like, right? But trust us, even though you don't feel like you're thirsty, your body actually still does need water because you are exercising, even if it's cold outside, and it will impact your performance. And you should definitely be hydrating during your long runs and especially during harder efforts. So if you're doing speed work in the winter months, you need to hydrate. And it is tough because your body's natural instinct is not to say, like, oh, I'm sweating to death and I'm so thirsty. But you need to be more mindful and know that you actually need that hydration for performance and recovery from your efforts in order to kind of maximize your running. So, yeah, make sure you're hydrating. That is a very common misconception, and it is very common that runners don't do that in the winter months. I was there like for the first probably 6 to 8 years of my running journey. I didn't take water with me ever. I didn't feel thirsty. I didn't think I needed it. And then once I started, it was amazing how quickly I recovered and how much better I felt after my runs, that I actually wasn't tired, fatigued, and all of those things. So make sure you're hydrating. You are exercising. It definitely, I would say definitely anything after 45 minutes, but certainly after an hour, if you're out there for a run, even though it's cold and you did not sweat per se, you do need to hydrate. So that's your BOGO. You get it with your hydration vest. Then you also, well, I guess your light vest. I can't say that actually keeps you warm. So it's just going to keep you safe though. So like Coach Whitney
Yeah.
mentioned, it's safety. And even if obviously when it's dark, that's going to be like super, super valuable. The other benefit, since we're kind of in winter and those that are road conditions that might be snowy or icy, you can help light that path in front of you to make sure that you don't slip, so you stay safe. And it is just super important. And even, I think about even in the daytime, like this is kind of a little bit of a side. I guess it relates because we're talking like, what do you wear for gear? But those that are in snowy conditions, remember, like drivers during the day, the sun really reflects off of the snow. So sometimes drivers can be blinded and they might not see you if any of your colors like blend into the surroundings. So make sure you're wearing bright clothing, like more importantly, in the winter months.
Yeah, don't wear what I'm wearing as your outer layer. Don't wear a white long sleeve, you know, because they're not going to see that. But even if you are driving where it is snowy, like Dwayne said, the snow or the light does reflect off your Noxgear. If you wear that during the daytime, people are going to be like, oh, there's like a disco party going on over there. What is that? And that's going to catch their attention and they're going to see you, which is going to make it safer for you. It might seem silly to wear it during the daytime, but it could also save your life. So it goes both ways.
All right. So as we make our way down below the waist, what recommendations do you have for winter running gear for the lower half? How do we keep those legs nice and toasty?
So legs get cold just like arms. So what I recommend is tights, leggings, whatever you want to call them, something that's going to be tight to your leg. I know a lot of guys are going to be like, I don't want to wear tights. I don't want to wear leggings. Like that's what girls wear, whatever. Just do it. Wear a pair of shorts over it. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to be looking, honestly, for that matter. Nobody cares what you're wearing. But wear something that is tight to you. I have a pair of pants, actually, I have several that have, like what Dwayne was talking about, that fleece. It's like a micro fleece lining in my leggings that are like heaven. Oh, they're like butter. It's so great. But they keep my legs so nice and warm. And honestly, I haven't broken them out yet this year because we're having some weird heat stuff going on here. I don't know. But normally about November is when I start wearing them here, and I'll wear them all the way through beginning of March, usually here, because my legs get colder than my upper body, I feel like. So I always try to keep those super, super warm. You can wear two pairs if you need to, if you're where it's really, really cold. I know people that will wear a pair of tight leggings. I think these are mostly guys. Will wear a pair of tight leggings, but then they'll wear a pair of like those 80s windbreaker pants, something like that over that still allows for enough movement and mobility in your lower body, but will protect your legs from the wind. I actually bought a pair of, they look ridiculous, but I'm excited to wear them. They are almost like a puffer vest, but in pants. So for all of you that follow us on social media, I will be sure to post a picture of my puffer pants when I wear them so you guys can see them. If you do not follow us, you should, because we have a lot of great content. But find something that is going to keep your legs and your glutes warm. My glutes get the coldest out of any part of my body, and I'll come in from outside and they're like numb. So find a pair of pants, a couple pairs of pants, something that you can do that is going to work for you, allow you the mobility that you want and need, but also keep you warm enough.
Absolutely. At Spark Healthy Runner, by the way, for those following us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, so not having the issue of like hot cross buns, having little cold buns is never
Mm-hmm.
good while we're running. And yeah, same over here. The glutes and the secret to that has been actually wearing, which yeah looks a little strange, but again, no one knows when I'm wearing them. But I will do the running tight. So we'll call them compression pants because I think that sounds more masculine, right? We do the
It does.
compression pants, and then I will actually do a wool. So this is a breathable wool shorts, so it's almost like a compression short that you would wear like under your normal compression pants or compression or running shorts in the summertime. But here you wear them over the compression pants to have a little bit extra warmth in the buns, in the gluteus maximus, right? So to kind of keep them nice and warm. And then I'll wear my kind of running shorts over that. So like you said, I do not feel comfortable just wearing my compression pants alone. Feels definitely a little awkward. So I go with the running shorts over the compression pants, and it is a no judgment zone, by the way. And then when it gets colder, really this is like the coldest level for me. Usually that, is really good until, 20 degrees, but under the 20-degree mark, then when we're at like level 3 in our classification system, that's when I will double up on the pants. And I've done a variety of things. I've done like a fleece layer over that's like a sweatpant kind of, I guess, outer shell, like, the athletic type sweatpants. So the elements, it won't get like soaking wet or anything if it, is a little wet outside. Um, or, yeah, if it's super windy, then I will try to pull out like the old school, windbreaker type of material, like you said. I have like two pants that I pull that out for on windy days, and again, that's my whole goal, is to just block the wind from making my legs freeze out there during the run. So yeah, layering is important down below. I would say traditionally, most people probably feel like they need a little less layers in the legs, because if you think about it, when you are running, yes, your leg muscles are working a lot more than your upper body muscles are. So that is the
Well,
reason.
and you also don't want to put too many layers down below because it will restrict your mobility. And I don't know if you guys have seen the movie A Christmas Story, but every time I put on lots of layers, I think I'm like that little kid. I can't put my arms down. I can't put my arms down. And I don't want my legs to be doing that where I'm like waddling like a penguin. I need to be able to move. So too many layers can be bad down on the bottom half.
Yeah. And so as we keep working our way down, what's next in our gear guide here for winter running?
So I don't know if this is down lower, but I'm going to put it in the same category because your hands are at about the same level as your butt ish area. So I'm going to go hands next. So I mentioned earlier you can wear a cheap pair of, those knit gloves that you can buy at Walmart, Target, anywhere for like $1 or whatever. Those are okay in the warmer temperatures. When it gets cold, you want to have on mittens. You want those fingers to be together. They are going to help. It's a buddy system. They're going to warm each other. They're going to keep your fingers warmer than gloves. Now, these are my favorite, my absolute favorite. I don't even know who makes these. Trailheads? No idea. But they are mittens and gloves. So they are gloves with a wind protective, water resistant glove mitten flippy part. Now, I don't know if that's a technical term, but it keeps my fingers together. It keeps them protected from the wind, from rain, snow when we have it. But sometimes this gets annoying when it flaps around. These gloves have like this little part. I don't know if you guys can see it on YouTube here, but it has like in the part around your wrist, there's like a little pocket. So I can put the mitten flap into the pocket so it doesn't flap around when I'm running. Oh, Dwayne's got them too. Yeah. So these are my favorite. I even wear these when it's not that cold and just tuck in the mitten part. But you got to
Yeah.
keep your hands warm.
Yeah, and what I would just add to that, coach, is, yeah, these are great. These are like thinner. I got these from Lulu. They're a thinner glove, so I would say they protect me to about freezing mark, in the lower 30s, and the mitten certainly helps. However, once we get down to like the cold, cold, I do find that it does make a difference to actually have the skin of the fingers touching each other. And that warmth is
Absolutely.
super helpful, and not having the fingers separated. Um, so then I'll usually go to like a fleece glove, not glove, mitten layer. So where the skin is actually touching each other. And it's amazing like how much that warms it. And then if it is windy, I actually go to an outer shell. So there are these mittens that have two layers. So there's a fleece layer, and then there's an outer shell layer. So now this protects me from snow, rain, wind, and is like money. So that's been helpful. And then it's so adjustable. It's great. So you could just like you're they get too hot, you just pull one of the levels off and just like stick it in your pocket, like you mentioned before. Um, and then I also have like thin, like running gloves, which again they're thin. So we're talking, yeah, like I mentioned before, my fingers are the first thing to go. So I'm wearing this. I sometimes will wear this literally with like a tank top to start some of my runs because my hands will get colder, right? And even my marathon race I had mentioned, right? I was wearing shorts and a tank top, but I started the race in gloves for the first 6 miles. So that's where those thinner type material gloves can come in like super handy. And but they're not going to like protect you when it's really cold. So you definitely have to go to more like a fleece, and a mitten is it just makes all the world of a difference. A mitten versus a glove. If you haven't tried mittens yet, you definitely need to. You will
Yes.
definitely see a huge benefit to keeping those hands and fingers, which don't get a lot of circulation, warm during your run.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say definitely if you're going to go the route that has the two layers, make sure your outer layer is wind resistant, water resistant, because the snow is going to hit your hands and it's going to melt. And that's just water right on your hands. So find something that is not going to get sopping wet when it snows, rains, whatever it is. I wore my, I don't even know what you call them, flippy mittens um, when it was 35 and raining, and my hands were bone dry when I got home. It was fantastic. So find something that is water resistant because it will make a difference.
Absolutely. So then, if we did hands, now let's go down to the foot and ankle, kind of past the pants area. What do we need to consider in terms of socks?
So a lot of us go from shorts or capris to full length leggings, pants, something that's going to hit you right at the ankle, right? Once it gets cold. So traditionally, I run in, you guys can see my Belega socks, the no show, whatever they're called, but they're low, very like right at where the top of my shoe is. Leave a lot of my ankle exposed, right? So these are not going to be that great in the winter. What I go for is the ones with, I think these are called crew socks. They've got maybe an inch of an ankle. And these make such a difference because they come up under my pants. Now, I know a lot of people, I think Dwayne wears the taller ones,
I
I
do.
think, or
Yeah, I
you wear
think those
compression
are
socks.
like
But
quarter. Those might be quarter socks. They might call them, or quarter length. I don't know what they call. I think crew is technically like a little higher, like half shin.
okay. Yeah, no, these
Because
are
I,
definitely not half shin. They come
yeah,
up about an inch above my ankle bone. So it does give a little bit of a double layer, the base of my pants, top of my sock, which protects me from the wind, really, is what I am wanting to protect from where I live. But snow, all the elements essentially. You want a heavier, taller sock because it's going to keep you warmer.
yeah, and with this, material matters definitely. Um, this is where I do seek out the smart wool technology socks. So I have specific socks for kind of winter running that will keep the toes and the feet a lot warmer. So I know I've had like Smart Wool is like a brand, as well as like CEP makes some wool, like the merino wool socks, which are specifically made for winter running. Those have been, really enough. If it goes to literally like 0 to 2 degrees or minus degrees, that I've gotten in some short runs, then I will pull out a second layer of like a storm sock, they call it, where it is really that material that prevents anything from getting wet, and will block the wind. That's when I'll pull that out. I used to use that a lot more frequently in my early days in my running journey until I found more like the winter merino wool sock. And that's been enough for me, honestly, to kind of get going now. It is really rare that I'll pull out that like second layer of sock, which the downside is it does add some bulk to your shoe, and feels like you don't have as much mobility, but you're able to get out there for a run, and still be able to do it in cold weather. So there are specific socks that you can get for winter running, definitely not cotton socks, just like we talk about for normal socks for running. But get a good, you know, 1 to 3 pairs of a decent winter running sock, and they'll definitely go far and keep you warm. And again, protect the skin. So you got to do more than the no-show version because you don't want any skin exposed, especially if there is a wind chill. Right, it's going to be really
Yes.
important. How about shoes? Anything we need to consider for shoes?
Not a ton. There's not a whole bunch of things we can do in the winter to make your feet warmer, essentially, other than the right socks. sometimes for me, if it's snowing here, which is very rare, but it does happen, it we don't know what to do with that. Like this, nobody shovels, nobody plow. Like there's nothing, no clearing of snow here. So if I want to go out for a run, what I do is I just throw on my trail shoes because the sole or the bottoms of the trail shoes have more nubbies, more grip, more traction. So I feel like I'm not going to slip as easily on the sidewalk or the road. I will say if you are running and it is slippery, it's going to be less slippery on the road than it is on the sidewalk. Concrete is going to be slippery, more slippery than asphalt, which is going to be more slippery than like the ground, like grass or wood chips or the trail. So if you can run on the street safely, I would recommend that. It's also more likely to be plowed and clear than the sidewalk, especially if you're running in neighborhoods. You know, your neighbor Johnny might not have been out early enough to shovel his sidewalk, so it might be just snow. So you can do trail shoes. I'm going to let you speak maybe about yak tracks or some of the other like ice shoe things you can put on there because I've never used any of those, but they are available. Um,
Yeah, so definitely our trail runners, and our Alaskan runners. We've had some runners in our program from Alaska, and like I mentioned before, Minnesota area, Michigan, that are using some of the yak tracks. I've never used them personally for runs here in Connecticut. I think Coach Lou and Coach Kat have used them before, but they can add some more grip, especially if the pavement isn't clear. So again, it's been years really for us here in Connecticut. But I remember there was like 3 winters in a row, about 10 years ago now, where we had snow every 3 days. And it was just like a new storm came through. So the roads were never like clear for a good 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks. So if you were getting out there for a run, which I was, you were running on either snow-packed roads or ice. So, you know, those can certainly help get some grippage, to really, and they attach like right onto your shoe and just allow for more traction essentially. So if you are running on snow-packed or ice roads, again, look into that from a safety standpoint because you certainly don't want to fall. You don't want to wind up falling on an outstretched hand or what we call a foosh and fracturing your wrist. That would not be good because then you're not going to be running for the rest of winter. So you got to prevent those types of things from occurring. But yeah, I would say the socks are key really because most running shoes are very breathable and they're meant that way. So, there's not going to be a lot of, I guess, if you are in an area that gets a lot of windy, cold weather and the wind chill is high, consider that second layer storm sock that I was talking about, or try to consider, in your running shoe selection, the ones that don't have the most mesh and holes in it. Some are more breathable than others. So maybe for a winter shoe, you pick ones that aren't as breathable, which means, your foot isn't going to get as cold when you are running. So really kind of recapping this, guys, and summarizing, in looking at our kind of 3 cold weather clothing categories. And all of this, by the way, will be posted with this podcast episode on our Instagram account at Spark Healthy Runner. Coach Whitney has really devised a layering guide for you. And the first layering that we're talking about is like 50 degrees plus, meaning you don't need any layering. You're wearing what you normally wear. For most of us, that is, tank top and shorts, for most of us. For the first level of cold, now we're starting to add, okay, what's the first thing that I need to pull out of my, or find in my closet, pull out, as, I started going through my things, you like forget, right? Like what you wore last year. It's like, oh, I have this hat. Oh, I have these gloves. Oh yeah, that's right. This is what I use first. And then I go my next level. So then you're talking about your long sleeve options. And for some of you, you might do, what do you call them? Capris, right? You
Caprice.
you might do capris versus shorts, or long pants, and you might be a baby like me and pull out like your thin, gloves, right? So you're starting to use your thin gloves for like 40 to 50 degree, and then we go to like level 2, which And for those watching the video version, you'll see the graphics that I'm holding up here. You can get these to act as your guide, and you look at your weather app and you're saying, oh, it's 20 or 30 degrees. All right, let's see what Dwayne and Whitney were talking about. I should have a base layer. Yes, long sleeves. Good, good. Top layer, I might consider a light jacket at that point or a vest, as Coach Whitney was talking about. Accessories. Now, here's where you usually got to pull out your hat. So you're really looking at pulling out your hat. And do I consider switching from my gloves to now mittens? And then we can go to our coldest level, which is the coldest level here. And this is where we're really layering up. So now we're starting to actually add, long sleeves and a fleece level and maybe that outer shell. So that jacket, the pants, maybe it's 2 levels of pants. So you got your thinner running tight, and then you have an outer layer from there as well. And then we really need to consider thinking about the neck area, right? Are we doing kind of the buff? Are we like covering it up? Are we doing a scarf? Are we doing this like cops and robbers that Dwayne showed before? And are, mitten wise, are we starting to do 2 levels and 2 layers like Dwayne talked about before? So we have that all outlined for you in a handy graphic. So for those, following us on at Spark Healthy Runner, you'll be able to save that post and be able to reference it each season. And for those of you not on Instagram, you can simply email Coach Whitney at whitney@sparkhealthyrunner.com. And we'll be happy to share those graphics with you, because I have found that to be a helpful reference. We've had it for a couple of years. First time we're kind of talking about it on the podcast here. So hopefully we're able to really help most of you get through winter, as we like to say. And for those of you who you really don't like summer running, you might love winter running. I know Coach Kat does for sure. That's her season. And I honestly, the more I've done it, I don't mind running in winter at all. And quite frankly, I'd rather get outside and enjoy some fresh air, because we're usually cooped up in the winter and we don't spend a lot of time outside. So if I can get those mental clearing miles in, it's just all about proper layering. And the only thing Coach Whitney and I ask from you today, if you found this helpful, like literally where you're listening to it, copy the link, share it with another running friend of yours who needs these tips to be able to go out and run in the winter and do it the right way without overheating and without freezing, because you can do it. And it is very, very manageable, and it doesn't need to be like a total, disaster and something that you like cringe. So Coach Whitney, anything else that you would like to add that we haven't talked about winter running?
Actually, one thing just came to mind while you were talking. If you are super cold or a big old baby like me, you can use hot hands. You know those little packets that you kind of shake up and they get warm? You can put those in your gloves, but don't put them right against your skin. Make sure you have a layer, those cheap old knit gloves, something between you and the hot hands, because actually I think I was running with Lou last winter when I was visiting. It I don't know what, the chemicals had some reaction on my hands and it made my hands black, and then they were like burning after that. So make sure there's a layer between you and the hot hands. But hot hands also come in handy. You can stick them in the side of your bra if you're a girl. You can stick them in your waistband on your hips to keep your legs and your glutes a little warmer. Hot hands are in my running closet cabinet right here. I keep them. I use them all winter, but I'm also a huge, big winter baby. So if that's something that you might want to try, let me know what you think.
Yeah, super helpful. I've never needed to go there, but I know many who have. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you guys for listening to this. Again, share it with a running friend that can use this. And thank you so much, Coach, for putting together these graphics, sharing these tips with us so we can continue getting after it this winter.
Of course. And guys, just stay toasty this winter. Stay warm, stay toasty, and be smart.
Absolutely. And as always, let's maintain a strong mind, strong body, and just keep running through winter and beyond.